Take the white side. It's your turn to move. This white king could move, or one of these bishops. Notice that if this white king is moving here, it prevents the black rook from moving there and winning a bishop. In other words, let's put this position back where it was. Let's say you're considering the best move, and you notice that this black rook could move there if it was black's turn, which it's not. But if it was black's turn, the rook would move here, the king would have to move, and the black rook would capture that bishop. So what is the best move? To move the king here to prevent this black rook from moving here? Actually, no, because it's white's turn to move. The first thing you could look at is what you can do. Notice that this black rook and the black king are on a line here. So here's the best move. Take advantage of that by moving the bishop here, check. The black king has to move, and you capture the black rook. Notice the difference between attack and defense, and thinking offensively instead of defensively. You don't have to worry about the black rook now. It's gone. Take the white side again. It's your turn to move. Notice that the black bishop here and the black queen are lined up on this diagonal toward this square, G2 square. If it was black's turn, the black queen could simply move to this square, capture the white pawn that's there, and it would be checkmate. But it's not black's turn, it's white's turn. And with the white bishop here lined up with the white queen on the diagonal leading to this square, G7, white simply moves here and makes checkmate. So this lineup of the black bishop and black queen is irrelevant. You have the white side. It's your turn to move. Have you noticed that if it's black's turn, this rook here at the A3 square could move down to A1 and it would be checkmate? But it's not black's turn. That makes a difference. You don't need to necessarily worry about that unless you have to pay a defensive move like making the king move to C1, so that if the rook comes here, the king can go to B2. So in this position, the first thing to look at, since it's your turn, is to see what you can do. See this black king and the black rook are on the same line here. This white rook moves here, check. When the king moves away, the white rook captures the black rook. You don't have to worry about defense. Take the white side again. It's your turn to move. Now if it's black's turn, you notice this rook here, the black rook can move to the A8 square and have a checkmate on the white king. You don't want that, but you don't necessarily need to panic. There are two ways you can move your king up or down, or you could move the rook somewhere, possibly making a check here or check here. In this position, the best way is actually not just avoiding loss, but actually being closer to winning the game. Here it is. You prevent your king from getting checkmated by giving a check on the black king. Wherever the black king moves, let's say here or here, you move another check, and guess what? It's in the line again. The black king has to move out of the way, and you win the rook. Not only do you avoid being checkmated, but now you're in a position to try to orchestrate a checkmate of your own. It's your turn as white, and this position is more common, like you'd find in a chess game, is you don't have an immediate way to win material or get a checkmate. But remember that when the kings are lined up like this, if your king is on the edge of the board and your opponent has a rook like this, your king is in danger of checkmate. You can avoid it by moving the king to one side or the other. I recommend moving here, an aggressive form of defense. Even though you're not winning a rook, when this king moves back, the black king has to go backwards down the board. Then the white king can move forward, and it's perfectly safe with the white king now. Now look at a slightly different position. Knight and one of the black pawns is moved to a different place. So what can white do here? The bishop and the queen are lined up in this direction, but this black pawn is protected by this black pawn, so that diagonal is neutralized, at least for the moment. Remember, the black bishop and black queen, like the previous position, is giving a threat of black's checkmating the white king by moving the queen to this square in front of the white king. So what do? Do you just make a defensive move, like move this pawn at f2 up to f3. Well, that would work defensively, yes, but there's a better move in this position. Look for attack first. This position, notice the king and the queen are lined up in a certain way, making a pattern shape here. This knight fork check means the king has to move. There's no black piece that can capture this white knight. So the black king has to move, and the knight captures the black queen like that, winning a substantial amount of material. Well, it's white's turn again. This knight is against a rook. Black actually has an advantage here. The rook in the endgame especially is more powerful, more valuable than a knight. So black has the advantage for the moment, but look, there's this pattern here. See the king and the rook, how they're distantly related, but with this square, as a knight moves away from the rook and a knight move away from the king. So this knight move here checks the king, which has to move, and then the knight captures the rook. A simple knight fork. Okay, it's white's turn to move. This is a little different pattern, but it's still a knight fork. This square is a knight's move away from this rook and this king. In other words, the white knight simply moves here, check. The black king has to move, and the knight captures the rook. But let's look a little bit deeper here. It's not so simple, because in this position, let's make some good moves on both sides. Notice that the black king moves here, which means that this white knight is trapped. Oh dear, not so simple for white, except that you notice what white can do. He can move here, and then when the king moves here to capture the knight, not necessarily the best move, but I'm saying just in case that happens, white can move here, and if black captures that knight, it doesn't have to, but just say, let's say he does, not saying it's the best move, then white moves here. Black can try to get a pass pawn here, do something, but it won't work. White's going to win the game. That pawn can move, but the white king captures it. The black king comes back to the rescue. It's too late. Too late. That pawn is gone. Black king can go there, but what's white's going to do? Going to come here. Going to make a queen. Doesn't matter what black does too much. That pawn's going to become a queen. The king moves here. See, the white king is now protecting this f8 square. So the black king has to come here or something, and then this makes a queen, which is shown here. I have to make this do that. And then if the black moves here, how does white win this game? Well, come here, check, come back here. The queen can drive this black king back. Another check, drives it back here. And pretty soon, you know, the black king is getting out toward the edge of the board. The white king comes over. You can use a pawn becoming a queen, but here's what generally happens. The king comes here. Black king comes here. White comes here. And the king comes here. And whatever the black king does, it's going to be checkmate here or in different ways.